As women, we are meant to sort of be shapeshifters for the men.
Yeah.
So if there's a man who's problematic, we can't let people see that. We have to kind of, or maybe it's us, maybe we're the problem. How do we become more charming, more dazzling, how do we change ourselves to make space for this man and his energy? If I can't fix him, I can fix me, or I can revise the history. And
I don't think people realize how involved she was in this movie. And she's a producer on the film from the beginning to the end. She was extremely involved, and she really made the film better. And
when you read Blake Lively's complaint, do you ever get the feeling that some of the stories are completely made up, or that they sound like they were taken straight from a movie? There were a few instances in her amended complaint where I thought the narrative was either entirely fabricated or reminiscent of a film plot. I found it hard to believe anyone would have such conversations publicly, and I couldn't picture Justin Baldoni behaving that way. However, I don't know Justin very well. I want to point out that Justin acknowledged at the start of this video that Blake often took the lead in terms of intimacy and planning intimate scenes. He spoke to Access Hollywood about the challenges he faced as a method actor. Method acting is a technique where an actor immerses themselves in their character's emotions and experiences. It's a controversial yet iconic approach that prioritizes authenticity and psychological realism. Sometimes, actors draw on their own memories to deliver genuine performances, fully embodying their character even in their daily lives. They might use their physical, mental, and emotional selves to create a character, allowing them to understand and separate from their own identity to truly become the character they are portraying. It involves a lot of studying and trying to understand the character's mindset. Often, when an actor is a method actor, they need some time away from everyone before or after a performance to disengage and reconnect with themselves. This is something he mentioned. After certain scenes, he would sometimes retreat to his trailer to cry or shake off the intensity because the character, Ryle, was so different from who he is. Ryle is quite an abusive character in this film. On the other hand, Blake prefers to bring herself into her roles, using her natural mannerisms and essentially playing the character as herself. This approach is easier and requires less preparation, but it can sometimes lead to performances that feel less authentic. You might notice that some actors seem to portray the same character in every film because they are essentially playing themselves. When you have two contrasting acting styles, it can create dynamics on set, and there was definitely some tension related to method acting versus playing oneself. Additionally, I want to emphasize that this film is graphic and contains disturbing violence, particularly in the way Ryle treats her. There's a scene where he attempts to assault her, leaving her battered from the ordeal. She gets a bite on her neck, and it's visceral and scary. There's another scene where he throws her downstairs, which is terrifying. This film is highly charged with very graphic scenes, and the actors and actresses are forced to portray these intense moments while trying to disconnect from the content. The nature of the film could create a tense atmosphere on set, leading to heightened emotions, potential hostility, and sensitivity, especially for those who may have personal experiences with sexual assault or domestic violence. It would be challenging for anyone involved. I want to emphasize that this is not an ideal set. However, aside from that, there was a specific claim she made in her complaint that struck me as really odd. Some of my followers in the comments began discussing a Jay Leno episode from around 2011, where Ryan Reynolds appeared. He talked about the film The Change-Up, which he made with Olivia Wilde. During the interview, he recounted how he broke character during an intimate scene with her. She removed her top, revealing pasties with smiley faces, and he mentioned that he had to pretend he wasn't breaking character, even though he did. After the scene, he admitted to fondling her, but then tried to frame it as if he was protecting her. He made a comment about the fine line between acting and sexual assault, saying that his palms were sweaty and he was trying not to look at her like a 14-year-old boy who just won the lottery. Once the scene was over, there were 65 crew members around, and he felt like he had hit the jackpot. I'm sitting there, and without thinking, I find my hands back on her breast. I think I'm doing it to cover her up, but I'm realizing there's a very fine line between consent and workplace sexual assault. If you want to see the full clip, I've posted it on my Instagram and YouTube. I can't show you the entire clip here because of copyright, but you get the idea. He's in character during an intimate scene, and his hands are up there. Once the scene wraps, He mentions that there are guys in the room who are turned on by what just happened, which is pretty gross. The fact that he's sharing this story so openly really undermines Olivia Wilde. He acknowledges that when he was in the scene with her, he broke character. He then admits that because there were smiley faces drawn on the pasties, they ended up on his hands, and when she was exposed, he covered her back up. I don't think that was his true motivation. It feels like he's trying to justify why he groped her. I wonder if he was trying to get ahead of a story he was worried about. I have no idea. Olivia Wilde is very empowered in her sexuality and has expressed that she really appreciates that empowerment in this film. Talking about it this way is really concerning to me. This is 2011, and he should have definitely known better. It's also interesting because when this film was released in August 2011, it didn't perform well at the box office. However, he was frequently seen with Olivia, leading to rumors that they were dating. This was around the same time he started seeing Blake. He mentioned that he and Blake had gone on a double date, which made things quite awkward. I'm not sure if he was on a double date with Olivia Wilde, as they've never confirmed their relationship, but if she was the last girl he was with before Blake, it might explain why the stories seem similar. The plot of this movie is quite wild, especially when you consider the details in her amended complaint. I want to share the scenario she describes in that complaint and then explain the movie's plot. So, on page 33 of the amended complaint, after discussing some really troubling aspects of the film, like the scene where she gives birth, she claims she was nude, but in reality, she was wearing a prosthetic belly and briefs, so she wasn't nude at all. Despite the footage showing this, she insists otherwise. She also talks about a scene featuring her younger self and Atlas during their teenage years, which wasn't included in either the book or the film. I'm not sure if she views it as assault, but the fact that he's being openly criticized is concerning. The scene was completely in the book, and I don't understand why she's making these claims when it seems she hasn't read it. She's trying to suggest that he was filming something inappropriate, but that's not what happened. The people involved were all adults in their 20s, and there was no nudity at all. I mean, if you consider nudity to be wearing a bra and underwear, then maybe, but there was no actual exposure. This is a PG-13 film. There are no nipples, no frontal nudity, nothing. She's setting the stage to portray him as someone who lacks boundaries and constantly crosses lines. She mentions that Mr. Baldoni publicly acknowledged his struggles with consent, echoing similar sentiments he shared with Miss Lively during a car ride, which he later discussed in a podcast. He admitted to crossing boundaries in his 20s regarding consent, attributing this flaw to his early exposure to pornography, where the message often seems to be that no means yes or try harder. She's completely misrepresenting this context, as I've pointed out in the interview, which you can find in another video. Then it mentions that on the first day of production, Mr. Bond and Mr. Heath shared details about their past sexual relationships with Miss Lively, including one instance where Mr. Baldoni decided a woman wasn't right for him, leading Mr. Heath to pursue her instead. Lively found the description of passing a woman around to be disrespectful and disturbing. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath often discussed their past addictions. Mr. Baldoni would frequently bring up these topics with Miss Lively, seemingly to end the conversation. She privately told him that she had never seen it. Later, when Mr. Baldoni once again referenced his experiences, he revealed in front of the cast and crew that Miss Lively had never seen it. This was a significant invasion of her privacy, as it involved discussing aspects of her intimate life with others, something she had only confided in Mr. Baldoni to get him to stop talking about it. Now, she's trying to portray this as a serious issue, claiming that he and Mr. Heath were sharing details about their past relationships. Both are married and fathers, not single. I'm not sure if this actually happened, but they seem to imply they swapped partners, with Baldoni having swapped a woman with Heath, who then hooked up with her, all while frequently mentioning his addiction. I find it hard to picture a set where two guys would openly discuss their love lives like this. Then I checked the synopsis for The Change-Up and was shocked. The film didn't perform well at all. It has a poor box office record and a low score on Rotten Tomatoes, around 1.5 stars. It's labeled as crude, vulgar body-switching comedy. Nobody seemed to like the film, so I decided to check out the synopsis on Wikipedia. It turns out it's about two guys in a body switch scenario, which used to be super popular. Where something happens and suddenly the kid is in the adult's body and vice versa, like in Big. In this movie, the two guys, who aren't friends, end up at a bar, get really drunk, and then jump into a public fountain. While in the fountain, they go to the bathroom, and somehow this magical fountain makes them swap bodies. Jason Bateman plays a character named Dave, who is a high-stress, highly motivated attorney with 3 kids. He's very successful and driven, but also quite uptight. As a corporate lawyer specializing in mergers and acquisitions, he's at a low point in his life, feeling like he's missing out because of all his hard work. He just wants a break from being a dad and a lawyer. On the other hand, Ryan Reynolds plays Mitch, an unemployed actor who is basically couch surfing and living in a messy apartment. He lacks ambition, is crass, and swears a lot. After they switch bodies, the story continues at Dave's law office. Mitch becomes friends with Dave's assistant, Sabrina, but his unprofessionalism and lack of legal knowledge jeopardize a crucial merger with a Japanese company. When Dave arrives at Mitch's film set, he discovers it's a softcore adult film. In this movie, Mitch plays a character who is both filming and participating in light adult scenes. Additionally, Mitch has feelings for Sabrina, portrayed by Olivia Wilde. Their roles are somewhat reversed as Mitch, who is actually Dave, gets romantically involved with Sabrina in the film. There's a particularly wild scene that stands out, especially considering the details in the complaint. I found a clip of it on YouTube, where they're about to get intimate and play Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye. Sabrina, wearing boots, lifts one leg in the air, prompting Mitch to take off her boot. This mirrors a moment from It Ends With Us, where a character does the same for Lily before bed. In The Change-Up, while they're about to get intimate, Olivia Wilde's character straddles Mitch, who acts like a nervous teenager. As she leans in to kiss him, he comments, "Oh, you smell like lemons. You smell so good." In her revised complaint, Lively mentions that Mr. Bond made a similar remark to her. The scene seems to borrow elements from this film and incorporate them into the movie. In the complaint, there's a mention of a video released by his lawyers where he comments on her pleasant scent, referencing their conversation about her spray tan. He says something like, "Oh, you smell good." And she responds, "Yeah, it might be my spray tan." This reminds me of a moment when Ryan Reynolds told Olivia Wilde in a movie that she smelled like lemons. He acted like a teenage boy during that scene and later admitted in an interview with Jay Leno that he broke character while filming. This is similar to what Lively accuses Baldoni of in the complaint, taking a scene from a movie and projecting it onto his wife. It's evident that he's still fixated on Olivia Wilde. For instance, when Blake gave birth, he mentioned to Jimmy Fallon, Jay Leno, or David Letterman, I'm not sure who, that he played Let's Get It On during her delivery, the same song that was playing when he and Olivia were making out in the film. Olivia was the last person he was with before Blake, and it seems like Ryan is projecting his feelings. All anyone needs to do is watch that movie to see that he's the one who broke character with Olivia, the one who complimented her scent, and the one who admitted to inappropriate behavior. Yet, he's accusing Baldoni of breaking character with his wife. Boney mentions that he was in character as Riley, while Blake was the one acting out of character. It was Blake who tried to discuss her husband with him and attempted to pull Boney out of character. When you watch the footage leaked by his attorneys, it's clear that he never truly left character. He was embodying Riley, who had a specific way of wooing Lily in the book. Whoever discovered this scene and led me down this rabbit hole, thank you. I believe I found a full clip of the interview on the Blake Lively Snark Reddit, featuring him speaking with Jay Leno. However, as I delved deeper into the movie's plot and compared it to the complaint, I was astonished. There are far too many coincidences. They're not just drawing from the love scene in the film, they're also accusing Boney of essentially essaying Blake because he essayed Olivia Wilde. Meanwhile, they're labeling Boney as the predator, when in reality, it seems like he's the one being targeted. It's frustrating to see how narcissists operate. They all follow the same patterns. Every accusation often reveals their own guilt. I suspect Ryan is behind all of this because while certain situations may share similarities, it appears that Blake is either mirroring Ryan's actions or following his lead. Perhaps she's out of character and needs to justify her actions, or maybe they're trying to set him up in some way. They concoct all this nonsense and start pulling from the movie, using Ryan's tactics. This is what Justin did to Blake. So are you really telling me that what Ryan did to Olivia Wilde is exactly what he claims happened to his wife by Boney, and what Blake says Boney did to her? Please tell me that's just a coincidence, or that it is a coincidence. They lie about everything. They're liars. I'm just disgusted by the whole situation. That's what I found out today. I hope this video somehow reaches Justin's lawyers. I've avoided interacting with that, so if one of you wants to pass it along, go ahead. They should check out The Change Up from 2011. Watch the film and pay attention to the scenes. Ryan is known for pulling inspiration from other films he's been in. He's been accused in the past of plagiarizing other people's work. So, it doesn't surprise me that he would take from another movie, apply it to a new one, and then again plagiarize what he did to Olivia Wilde while accusing someone else of doing it. He has a guilty conscience because he knows who he is. It's gross. Let me know if you see it. Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.